Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to speak about the upcoming Neptune stationing direct. So Neptune stations direct on December 1st. Between now and then, it only moves about 8 more minutes. So it's slowing down significantly, coming almost to a complete stop. And I've often spoken that whenever a planet stations, whether it's direct or retrograde, it's almost as if this planet is conjunct itself. So there's a gravity, there's an attuning. There's a concentration on that particular planetary function. And in particular, when a planet stations direct, the opportunity really is to harvest and integrate all the teachings of that last retrograde cycle. Oftentimes, there's a great opportunity to begin to integrate a deeper level of understanding. So we'll drop into this here. Before I start, I want to make sure everyone knows about the class I'm teaching this Friday on Venus retrograde. This is a part of the ongoing retrograde class series. And Venus retrograde in particular, I think, is a really powerful one. It's one of the most infrequent retrograde cycles. And so whenever Venus goes retrograde, it's a very prominent time because Venus is the lateral sphere of our lives. And it corresponds to our relationships and how we're also establishing value in a relationship to our inner self, how we're getting our essential needs met. This is something that is very relevant to all of us every day of our life. We all have many different kinds of relationships. So there's a lot of reworking, a lot of healing, a lot of deepening of understanding and healing in our relationships that happens during Venus retrograde. Fundamentally, deep healing in our inner relationship to ourself, our self-knowledge, our embodiment of who we are, and greater strength and clarity. So I really think of the Venus retrograde time as a pretty powerful time where a lot of healing can happen. So to learn more about that, you can sign up in the link below. I'll be speaking about the Venus retrograde cycle in general, transit and natal charts, and also addressing this upcoming cycle. And I will also speak about this in coming weeks as well. So, when we speak about Venus and Neptune, they're octaves of each other. So Venus is a lower octave of Neptune. When we're looking at Venus, we're looking at the relational sphere, which in a sense, all relationships from a Venus point of view, they're conditional. Just in the sense that each relationship has a particular purpose. And that's the dance, learning how to listen to what's needed. Right? What do I have to give? What can I give? What do I need? How do I ask for that? How do we learn to be in a relationship to all of our relations in a way that's serving and supporting and nourishing our paths? Where relationships are about giving and sharing and the ways in which each one of us can actually bring benefit and support to one another. A lot of the work within the Venus realm is kind of finding that balance, doing that work of looking within, listening to ourselves, listening outside of ourselves, and just being in that place of continuing to nurture a state of harmony and balance within and without. Neptune is also about relationship, but it's the vertical plane. Neptune says it doesn't matter who you are, when, where, what, how. Neptune says the truth isn't conditional. Love isn't conditional. So Neptune is where we recognize the sameness of everyone and everything. In that sense, there isn't something to negotiate or work out. It's not about the conditional realm where we're all learning how to meet specific needs. Neptune corresponds to our personal attunement to what is true. And I really love the idea. I've been thinking a lot about the idea that love is a choice. And the reason why that resonates for me is because love is in a sense not a choice. Like, love is true. Love is what's true. And what's true and indiscriminately true right now, every moment, everywhere, with everyone, means it can either be recognized, right? We can give ourselves to it. It's a gesturing of surrendering and trusting it. Since it's inherently true, it doesn't step outside of itself to make itself known. It doesn't say, by the way, love, because it just is, right? So to know it actually requires a sort of gesture of trusting and opening to it. Sort of like the fish in water needing to just trust it's in water. It can't really empirically prove that it's in the water, if in this analogy, it's the only thing that is. There's no such thing as not water. So it's not no analogy is perfect, because you can take a fish out of water. In this analogy, you can't take a fish out of love. You can't take us out of love. And so you have nothing to compare it to other than relative to our own thinking. The effects of orienting to reality from a not love point of view is painful. There's suffering. And the reason why there's suffering is because we're denying what's true. We're denying our own home. We're denying our true nature. We're denying our essence. And so to choose love is to orient our attention towards what is true. And this is where, with Neptune, we can really have an experience where there's just total meaninglessness, total mundanity, a feeling of emptiness and lostness. All beings know, all beings intuit on a deep level that there is ultimate meaning here. It's because we all know on a deep level that we come from the source, that there is an inherent truth and unity to life. But if we don't know that, if there isn't a total knowing and trusting of that, in some sense, we're going to have to reconcile with the feeling of it not being there. And that's a part of the Neptune process, where, in a sense, we're all trying to figure out and negotiate what to do with that feeling of love and wholeness and peace not being here now. So we can either turn off towards a sort of nihilistic emptiness, there's no meaning, why bother trying? And or sort of come into this hopeless state where we're, wanting to be saved somehow. Let me put my teacup somewhere. Right? It's like the fish in the water, praying to the water. Water, show me yourself. I'm lost. I'm thirsty. I need water. And that doesn't work. Because you can't pray to reality to be itself. Like, you can't pray for reality to show up. It already is. The work really is praying for and orienting our devotion to heal our own perception, to heal our own thinking, to heal our own mind. Clearly, I'm not seeing the truth. Clearly, I don't understand what's true because I am not experiencing what I deeply intuit and know to be true. Right? I'm in fear. I'm in lostness. I'm seeking. I'm looking for salvation. It must mean that I must not understand who I am. I must be confused about my true identity. I must be confused about the truth of you in this moment, where I am. I often like speaking about a beautiful teaching that my dear friend and teacher, Jennifer Dawn, has offered to me many years ago. She says that the point where we draw the line in the sand and we say, this is where love ends. This is where I'm going to love. Beyond that line, nope. I can't accept. I can't allow. Right? Loving, it says allowing. Letting everything be as it is, not needing to change anything or anyone, not needing to change ourselves. Right? Meeting everything with this immense spaciousness of the way love looks upon things, the way a loving parent looks upon their children, where they see no blame or shame, they see no wrongdoing, they just see the innocence. And there couldn't be a possibility of holding a non-loving perception. Right? So where we say on the other end of this line, I can't accept, I can't love, it is not safe. And that's the dynamic. It's we believe that love isn't safe. Love means sacrifice. I'm going to lose something. I'm going to sacrifice something. And part of the Neptune work, we often get confused. We think love is sacrifice. We think love is martyrdom. And so we enable. We live in a way where we think acceptance means suffering and allowing ourselves to suffer and allowing ourselves to be hurt. Like, that's not an accurate understanding. Working out the truth of love is I'm learning it's a very simple thing, but my actual experience of it and my observations, it's a very complicated thing, only because in the learning, we're just working out all of our confusions, all of the ways in which we're trying to negotiate and control what actually can't be negotiated or controlled. And it's just a spiritualization process, like a learning the safety of love, learning the truth. And it just keeps on going. As long as we're evolving, there's a deepening and a deepening of this realization. So what happens is the ocean comes and just very naturally just washes it away. It washes it away not because it's trying to mess with us, but because it's not discriminate. It doesn't really think about our arbitrary lines. Like a line in the sand is just a line in the sand. There was never a moment where reality took it seriously. So again, we're going to negotiate with that and be like, oh man, this is so hard, we're suffering, we're being punished. But really, we're just constantly being redirected back towards the truth. And this is the work. We're asked to work that out. That's a part of the evolutionary journey. It's our work. It's our responsibility to work out our own thinking, to work out our own perceptions. In that sense, we're all learning to take responsibility for unloving thoughts. There's a teaching in A Course in Miracles, which is there are essentially two ways of, and this is not an exact quote, two ways of feeling or two emotions, love and fear. Any thought that is loving is true. Any thought that is rooted in fear and separation is not true, and is thus the calling for love. To reframe everything, and this is a radical practice, but again, reality is radical because it's uncompromisingly itself. Like the truth, God, love, holiness, it's not conditional. So if we want to know it, there's a learning for all of us to understand this is a radical practice. It wants us to understand that there aren't conditions around it. So the work in unraveling that is to see, okay, any moment where my mind is in separation or fear, just to acknowledge, I must be confused. I must be confused. The reason why I also think this is radical is because it's so acceptable. It's common in our conditioning, even in our spiritual teachings. To set up shop somewhere where we become content with whatever line we've decided to draw in the sand. And there are all kinds of like good one-liners around that, right? Culture, society, spiritual culture, mainstream culture, whatever it is. We have all these teachings that come through that will really want to empower and validate a perception of reality that says, yeah, you drew that line. Good for you. You draw that line. You tell reality that you are gonna love up until that line. Yes. We do that because we're also trying to figure out what it's like to respect ourselves, to care for ourselves, and we haven't quite learned how to do that. So it's a compassionate understanding that you and I, we're all figuring this. There's no one that I've ever met that isn't still working this out. But it's useful to have an appreciation of this and to see it for what it is. Right? We're trying to negotiate and make these conditions around what is not negotiable or conditional. And as popular as it might sound to settle for fear and to disguise that fear as empowerment, to disguise that fear as good boundaries. And again, we're all where we need to be, and we walk the path and we play out the path we believe we need to play out. And that's just a part of the process. This is just very true for all of us. But it's not the final step. Right? Anything that concludes with that line is just another experience. It's another attempt. It's another experience in our learning, in our unraveling of truth. And something that I often think about, which brings me a lot of peace, is the fact that there actually aren't a lot of role models out there for a radical, unconditional love. Those that are examples of that are the ones that are truly awakened. And the reason why this gives me peace is it invites me not to trust anyone. Say it differently. It invites me to be more discriminate in trusting advice or perspectives that the world wants to offer. I'm very aware that very few people have really committed themselves to go all the way. And so I look towards people that are peaceful. I look towards people that are really happy, really content, and truly loving of everyone. Or those that are just like getting there, right? I can feel that they're really doing this work of finding even more space inside. Those people inspire me and are generally the ones that I want to pay attention to, their teachings, because I'm aware of how popular and how easy it is to identify with teachings that encourage us to stop short of the whole truth. So these are some teachings that I feel are just really relevant for Neptune stationing direct. This next eclipse, this full moon, lunar eclipse, will be trining this Neptune as it's really, really tight. Getting really, where the direct is really tight. It's just a few degrees, I think, or maybe 4 degrees or so from a trine. The moon will be sextile to this Neptune, and Neptune is going to even be more close to its stationing. So that's going to be really highlighting a lot of these teachings right now in the context with the strong Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus axis. So strong, deep psychological work, really tuning into these core teachings about our soul journey and looking at where we can orient and strengthen our devotion. So hopefully this teaching just offers some support for us as we're moving into this stationing, and also just during this really powerful time. Considering that Neptune's a higher octave of Venus, we're moving into a very powerful Venus cycle, we can look at the Venus and the Neptune journeys in context with each other, right? We don't want our Venus work to become so consuming that we're constantly looking for peace and wholeness and balance entirely through the relational sphere, because we can get stuck there in constantly trying to find balance and harmony, constantly needing to negotiate how our decision to be at peace relative to the fluctuations of all of our relations. So to be able to appreciate the Venus work, but understand that our relationship to God, our relationship to love is inside. And we're responsible for that. And it's very powerful, and that really helps and supports coming into that deeper grace and harmony and balance and a true state of flourishing and giving and sharing in all of our relations. Okay, everyone, much love to you all. Thank you for watching.